Welcome to Happily Ever After is just the beginning. Keeping your relationship not just together, but happy, and we mean truly happy, is part art and part science.
There were days where we thought we wouldn't make it out, but we stuck it out. Today's our day.
You've come to the right place.
Today's our day.
Here's your host, Leslie Dories.
When my daughter got married 4 years ago, her cousins were all about the wedding, but they were confused about why she would want to get married. She's the youngest of all of the cousins and the only one yet to make the big commitment. Now, she and her husband met in college on Tinder, like many couples do these days. And as I've watched my children and nieces and nephews become young adults, I've had a front row seat to how challenging dating and relationships have become. Marriage is a unique and complicated relationship that requires good skills if it's not going to just survive, but actually thrive. And many of today's young people have never seen a successful marriage. So it's no wonder that they're a little bit skittish about this whole committed relationship thing. And many couples try to do marriage halfway. They try to protect themselves and be committed at the same time. And it's like trying to go on a trip, but you have one foot on the dock and the other in the boat. So how can you jump all the way in and prepare to handle the special relationship challenges marriage brings? Well, that's what I'm going to be talking about today with my guest, Kelly Miller. She's a therapist, radio personality, and author of the new book, Love Hacks, Simple Solutions to Your Most Common Relationship Issues. So, Kelly, thanks for coming on the show and talking about this very interesting topic.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
This is going to be great. So, in looking at your book and reading a little bit about you, one of the things that I know that you probably have come across is challenges to marriage. So is marriage actually now harder than it used to be? And if so, why do you think that is?
I do believe it's harder, and for the reason of there's so many more distractions now. So I think that, I think we can't be as connected with our partners because there's so much going on. Our phone is dinging. We're not as present. And, they've done studies that even if people are on a date and they have their phone out, that they're, people don't feel as paid attention to.
Right.
In that sense, it's like at any point that thing can go off and disrupt that. So to me personally, I think we need to go back to really attending to our partners and having a no-phone zone for a little bit and things like that.
Well, it's so funny that you should say that because my daughter and I go out to lunch. We are actually looking around and seeing all of the other people, like the other mothers and daughters, they're both on their phones. They're not actually talking to each other. Yes. And I was actually at a psychotherapy networker conference, and Pat Love, I don't know if you're familiar with her. She was a keynote speaker, and she's saying to this room of therapists, right? She says, "What do you think is the greatest threat to marriage today?" And people are popping up with infidelity and all of these popcorn answers, and she stopped and she held up her cell phone. And she said, "This is the greatest threat." So that's actually in alignment, because people have said that, that people's attention span is now less than that of the attention span of a goldfish. I don't know how they figured that out, but it's it's so true. It's like, wow, we carry them around with us all the time, and it's like.
And if you think about it, there's so much stimulation, right, that happens, right? You get dopamine hits when you get a text or an email. And so I think the conversations that you have with your partner, they can tend to feel boring now in comparison. So that's the tough part, right? It's like, hey, this isn't as stimulating, as if I'm, watching a reality show or checking my phone.
Right, or the latest TikTok video or whatever,
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think that and it is very difficult because young people today who grew up with this kind of technology and texting and all of this stuff, they don't know how to have a conversation.
100%.
I mean,
It scares me. It really Well, and the eye contact isn't quite there. You know, that it does concern me greatly. So I'm with you. Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because I actually talk about this with my clients about do not try to have a conversation, a serious conversation over text. Right. It's like to me, text should be, hey, I'm running 5 minutes late, or can you go by the grocery store and pick up some tomatoes for dinner, or, Susie's soccer game is at 3:00, meet you there. I mean, those kinds of things, but not, I mean, I've had clients literally have arguments over their cell phones, and I'm like going, please don't do that. I said,
but I think what's scary, Leslie, is that you are the anomaly. Like, I think that generation is very normal. Yeah. It's awkward for them to be on the phone. They think it's rude to leave a voicemail, and it makes me laugh so hard. Like people have said, like, it's kind of rude when I get a voicemail. I'm like, what? What do you mean? Like, it's so different. It's very different now.
And, yes, and so to try to resolve issues and be uncomfortable, because again, like you're talking about, the phone is this little dopamine hit, and it's like, why would I be uncomfortable having a difficult conversation with my partner when I can, be feeling good, but they don't know how to resolve issues. So I would, people who've listened to the show have heard me say this before, that nobody has to take a relationship 101 class, and everybody should. I don't think people should be let out of high school until,
basic communication skills and how to connect and all that is so important, especially now. Yes, and something you were just speaking of, I mean, I think people were so quick to turn to technology when we are uncomfortable. I mean, think about it. You're bored, you're in a line somewhere, you're on your phone, right? Versus, before cell phones, you just had to kind of sit with being bored. And some of the best creative thinking comes when you're just kind of bored and daydreaming. And so we're not kind of having that resilience to sit with those uncomfortable feelings now. And that's concerning.
Right. And I mean, I tell people, I said, I don't care how great your marriage is or how great your relationship is. You're going to have differences of opinions. You're going to hit rough spots. And and sometimes those rough spots are caused by something that doesn't, that's external to the relationship. It's not actually something that's happening within the relationship. But if you don't have that ability to talk with each other and support each other and, be there, then you're kind of out on your own.
Exactly.
So this is, so yes, technology has some benefits, but it also has some real drawbacks.
It's true. It's very true.
And your new book addresses some of the things that are going on, in relationships. And you actually said the way that the book is set up is you talk about 15 issues that happen in these relationships that you see over and over again. And so what are some of the biggies that show up?
Sure. So in Love Hacks, I really thought about, I counsel these couples, what is coming to the table consistently. And it's not too big of a surprise. Lack of sex, finances, constantly arguing, not making time for one another, things like that. A lot of times I hear too, like, things are different since we've had kids. I don't feel in love with my partner anymore. I do so many of the chores. Chores is a funny one. I hear that one constantly, right?
Right.
So those are kind of some of the big ones that I would consistently hear, and that's part of the reason I wrote Love Hacks, is because I'm grateful for the couples who come in, but there are tons of couples who need it, outside of the doors, outside the office.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting because we were talking about technology, and and I think that technology also has a lot to do with why couples aren't having sex.
Yes, that is true.
Either they're engaged in pornography, which of course never turns you down, and it's right there.
You're right.
Or like you were saying, they're spending time apart from each other, even though they may be sitting in the same house.
Right.
but they're not connecting on any kind of level. And so it's, and then you're also talking about kids, and especially, if you've got kids and something else to distract you, and the constant busyness, right? That everybody is so quote unquote busy. It's like, well, yeah, you're not actually.
Exactly.
I mean, I've had this conversation with, it's like, it's like 15 to 20 minutes a day of one-on-one interaction with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you're really too busy for that. I had the wonderful experience of interviewing a couple who'd been married. I think if they're still alive, 69 years in June.
Wow.
And they have been writing each other love letters for 40 years.
Oh.
Because they went to a Catholic marriage retreat, and that was one of the things. And so they actually ran a contest of who could keep this up the longest. I think they've won by a long shot. And his statement was, and it takes about 10 minutes, when he described the whole process. And he said, and he counsels people, and he says, so you're going to tell me that you don't have 10 minutes a day for your spouse? And when he says that, it's like, they were the cutest couple, and and he was so dead on. It's like, how can you say that you love somebody and you don't have 10, 15, 20 minutes a day?
You're right.
To connect with them.
I think people take their partners for granted a lot. Mm-hmm. I'll do it tomorrow. They know I love them.
Right.
Things like that.
Right.
Or, there's like resentment of like, well, they don't tell me, why should I be the one, kind of goes tit for tat.
So, this is a really challenging thing. And, and we go back to, how do you have these conversations, and how do you not end up in an argument with resentment? Mm-hmm. And, and it's so easy to focus on the kids or your job or the latest, binging thing on Netflix.
Exactly, on Netflix. Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say, I think it's really recognizing, hey, I have to make my partner a priority, and I haven't been. Uh-huh. And so for things to change, things have to change. And, that's really it. It's like recognizing, okay, I'm not connecting as much with my partner. I don't feel so connected. Okay, I've got to make some changes.
Right. And it's interesting because you said something about, why should I have to do it? Right. Which I get that all the time. And I said, you know what? Somebody has to step up and be the hero. Somebody has to go first. Right. Exactly. Because it's really easy when you've got this built-in scapegoat, right? Well, this person said so and such, so I'm just going to go sit over here and be in a funk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or the wonderful thing I hear when I tell men, I said, if you ask your wife how she is and she says fine, she is not fine. She is not being honest with you.
Yeah, fine stands for feeling insecure, neurotic, and emotional. I love that, right?
Right.
So,
right.
She's on to something.
Right. I mean, and part of this is that when you lose that connection, when it's the Gottman's bid for connection, right? When somebody is reaching out to you and you either miss it, which frequently that happens because sometimes it can be really subtle, or you purposely turn away from it, you're sending a message.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. It's so true. It is so true, that nonverbal communication that people don't realize. You're right. Uh-huh. You're absolutely right.
Right. And I have to tell you, I'm guilty of using my phone sometimes when I should actually either be engaged with my husband or just minding my own business, just being there, because it's even those of us who know better,
Yes, of course, exactly. Well, it's so intoxicating. I mean, I think that's just it, right? It's not, and there, I think soon enough there's going to be in the DSM, the manual for therapists and psychiatrists. I think there's going to be like a phone addiction or of some sort because, yeah, I mean it's so intoxicating. So yeah, I don't think that people are alone in that.
Yeah, and instead of turning towards each other, they're turning towards these other distractions.
Exactly.
So this is Happily Ever After is just the beginning on webtalkradio.net. I'm Leslie Dories, and I'm talking with therapist, radio personality, and best-selling author Kelly Miller. And if you're experiencing difficulties in your marriage, I'm going to tell you, you're not alone, but waiting for things to get better on their own rarely works. Not addressing things in a timely manner can lead to more pain, resentment, and distance. Getting help to handle them is not a punishment. It's actually very smart. And I can help. If you want to have a great marriage, I invite you to take a moment and get in touch with me. You can reach me by email at Leslie, Lesli, at foundationscoachingnc.com. That's FOUNDATIONS, N as in Nancy, C as in Charlie.com. Or you can reach me by phone at area code 919-924-0463. That's 919-924-0463. And now I want to get back to this conversation about what's making marriage so difficult today. And Kelly, we were talking a little bit earlier because the two things that when my clients come to me with are we don't communicate well, or we're living like roommates. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, those two are connected. But why do couples stop having sex? And what's your top recommendation to rekindle the connection and passion?
Yes. So from what I've seen, I mean, there could be a variety of reasons, but one of the main things that I see, the first one is resentment on either part. That one of the partner has some sort of resentment, and nothing kills libido than anger and feeling resentment. So my antidote to that is that we need to uncover that resentment. And in order to feel really connected to your partner, this needs to be addressed. And you need to have an open and honest conversation about why you're upset. And, in order to feel connected physically, it starts with feeling connected emotionally. And that's kind of the first one I see, right? And then the second thing is just really, could be kind of a lack of excitement, which of course happens when you're in long-term relationships. And my recommendation for that is I would recommend focusing on sensation, not necessarily sex.
I love it.
Idea, right? It's like, okay, great. I just have to reach orgasm and get it over with and do it. And it's like, well, let's back it up for a second and start with a massage and gentle touch and, that side of thing, where climax is not the end goal. And there's something called sensate focus therapy and kind of details how to do that. And I don't know if you have any comments, but I'm ready to do the third too. I didn't want to cut you off.
And I do think that that's where a lot of times people see sex or see physical intimacy or intimacy in general, because we could, it's like, okay, people equate intimacy when they say that word with sex, and those of us who write on the blogs on the internet, we use that because if we put sex in there, our blogs are going to get banned. But some of the professionals are using them interchangeably, but that's only so that you can get our articles. They're not the same thing. There's all kinds of intimacy. And when we only focus on physical intimacy, specifically penetration, sexual intercourse, we're missing a whole lot. And a lot of times that can really put people off, and especially because it takes usually women a little bit longer to warm up and get in the swing of things. If you're trying to do it after a long day at work and you just struggle putting the kids down to bed and you've got this big presentation tomorrow, and it's like, okay, that is not conducive to good physical intimacy, and so then it becomes a chore. And that's the last thing. Right. And let me tell you guys, the last thing you want is intimacy to be a chore in your life.
A chore, right?
Yeah. Like, please no. And this is why I tell people, vacation sex is usually so much better because you're away.
You're away. Well, and I just want to speak to it's normal for sex to ebb and flow in the relationship, right? There could be months where it's great, and then but I think it's important to bring that back, and maybe that involves whatever it takes for you to feel sexy and alive again, right? So dressing up or going on an exciting date where you can feel adrenaline together, like rock climbing or a roller coaster.
Right.
And the other thing, too, I think we have to remember sex starts before the bedroom. And so something I detail in Love Hacks is what I call quick partner connections. And I used an acronym TEAS. And T is for traditions, where I want partners to create traditions just for the two of them, whether that's, a morning kiss and a high five before you leave, something cute. E is for efforts, so I want something to be done where you wouldn't ordinarily do for your partner, right? And don't tell them about it.
Right.
A is for, right, because it defeats the purpose.
Right.
A is for acknowledgments and kind of validating your partner and what you love about them or what's working. S is for silly, kind of making things fun again. And we forget, we take things so seriously. So like, what if your partner come home and you're talking in like a French accent? Doing something cute. And then finally, E is erotic and sending a flirty text or, something to kind of get the juices flowing. And I think that can help in the bedroom because you're kicking it off, right?
Right. Yeah. It's sort of like, I'm thinking for some reason I just had a visual of an airplane. An airplane doesn't go from complete stop to flying at 30,000 feet. There's takeoff. Right. We have to taxi. Right. We have to warm up. And, and one of the things, and it can be challenging because what your partner liked the last time may not work this time. So we have to be willing to be flexible and again, having a sense of humor about things can really help. Because, and by the way, laughing together.
Oh, I love that.
Is, that's really connecting. And, and trying to get out of the routine as opposed to, okay, it's Tuesday night, nudge, nudge, you know what that means.
Right.
And that's where I think that whole taking it off of the act itself, but more that connecting, that sensate that you were talking about. So, because I know that, my colleagues who are sex therapists will say, it's like, okay, sexual intercourse is off the table for 2 months. We're going to be doing all these other things. And that's how you rebuild the passion. And,
right.
And I was actually saying, that poor communication leads to poor intimacy because we're talking about how to connect outside of the bedroom and that all that stuff starts beforehand, which brings up that other main issue that people come to me with is poor communication. So you have something called the fast food communication method. What is it and why does it work?
Sure. So if you think about it, when you go to a fast food drive-through, the employee wants to make sure that they hear your order correctly. And in order to do that, they repeat it back to you, and they even show it on the screen. And I think a lot of times with miscommunications with our partner, we're just not hearing it correctly. And so what I call the fast food communication rule in Love Hacks is just that. It's ensuring communications with our partner so that we don't continuously have arguments or misunderstandings. And it's really simple. It's just saying our partner comes to us and says, they're upset about something, and you repeat it back. And you say, what I'm hearing you say is you're upset that, and you repeat it back. And it does two things. It really makes sure that you heard your partner correctly, but first and foremost, it validates them, right? I think we're so quick to jump in and defend and be like, wait, no, and it's like, if you take that moment to pause and repeat back, it just sort of calms everything down. And so I really think that's a great method.
Well, and I love that, because that's a new spin. It's a new naming of reflective listening, which is really what this is.
Exactly.
And it's the whole listening to understand, not listening to respond. And one of the things that I tell my clients is, you have understood what your partner said when you can turn to a third person who was not privy to the conversation and lay out your partner's position and be 100% accurate. Now, you don't have to agree with them, but if you can explain it to a third person, you've got it.
That's exactly right. It's not about agreeing. It's just about repeating back what you're saying so that they feel heard.
Right. And, I'm so bad, because I've said this before, and I need to just put this on my bulletin board right in front of my face, because I can never remember who said this. But there's a quote that being heard is as close to being loved that for most people there is no difference.
I love that. I can't remember who said it, but that's so true, because that's what we want. We want to be heard. We want to be seen and validated. And again, that doesn't mean I would feel or respond or anything the same way you do. But when we don't validate our partners, when they come to us with something important and we dismiss them with the, oh, you're too sensitive, or you're too this, or you're too that, whatever, then they just feel like you don't care about me. Exactly. Yeah, they feel invalidated.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. And then that creates that defensiveness.
Right.
And anger.
And also, and also when we stop, because I always tell my clients too, it's like, unless you have a tape recorder or a video recording, you cannot repeat back verbatim what your partner said, because it's like playing a game of telephone. We don't, we hear it through a lens. We hear it through, and so when we get into this argument about, you said this, no, I didn't, yes, you did, I said, okay, stop right there. It's like, what I heard was.
Right, exactly.
Not what you said, because it's sort of like, oh, I had a client many years ago that they were not in a good place. She was going away for the weekend with her girlfriends, and he said to her, I don't want you to go. What he meant was, I'm going to miss you. What she heard was, he's forbidding her from going.
Exactly.
Same meaning. Same words, two completely different meanings. So if we don't stop and go, excuse me, did I hear that I can't go on the weekend with my girlfriends? Right? He goes, no. But we do get caught up in our emotional response, and I think that this fast food communication where we just stop and repeat and make sure that we understood it slows it down, and it allows us to grab that unhelpful emotional whoosh that we get. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. But we're just so used to automatically responding without taking that pause.
You are so right. And I love that example you gave, because it's such a perfect example. That is like to the T. That's exactly it. And that's why we need to do this, to really, really make sure that couples are understanding each other.
And and by the way, this takes time, and I love it, because you have in your T's you had effort.
Yes, exactly.
It's like you cannot put your marriage on the back burner on autopilot and think it's going to be okay.
Right. No. And I think a lot of people do. You're right. Because it's like, well, we're married, but it does. It requires.
And things aren't that bad.
Right. Exactly. Or my partner will still be here.
Right.
No, but we have to show appreciation to our partners. Because that lack of appreciation, leads to other things, to straying and things like that, because they don't feel valued. So we have to value our partners.
Well, and it's interesting, because, and that's, to me, that's part of the effort, is it's easy and to find the things that our partners are doing that we don't like.
Right. You're right.
And if we're in good relationships, that's actually balanced out by a lot of the things that they offer our lives together. And if we look for them, we will find them. And that's, and you had the traditions, right? Those things, those connecting points.
Yeah.
Where it's just something that the two of us do. And by the way, people, if you are parents, please make sure you're taking care of your partnership as well as your parental stuff, because ideally your children will grow up and go away. Not, they're going to move out of the house, but your partner isn't, and this is why I stunned somebody the other day when they were asking me about divorce. I said, yes, the fastest growing divorces are what's known as gray divorce, which are the people who are empty nesters because all the distractions have gone away.
Exactly, and you're spot on that they're not nourishing that relationship. They're focusing so much on the children.
Right.
But, you need to, it's like anything. If you don't tend to it, it's not going to grow.
Right. Yeah, it's like it doesn't thrive on neglect,
exactly.
And it's easy, especially, and so this is where, where I talk about getting into. It's like you're talking about traditions and the habits, and making sure that you are spending some time together as a couple. Like I said, that 15, 20 minutes a day, or if you can't do it every day, it's like, although I do challenge you that's what else are you doing? That is it really is 15, 20 minutes a day for the out of what is that? Out of 24 hours. So that's not even
exactly. It's nothing. It's nothing. Exactly.
Yeah. But it pays big dividends, and most of these issues could be resolved because again, when we get together, when we first fall in love, we're usually spending hours every day.
Yeah. Right.
Now, we can't keep that up.
No, exactly. But the bare minimum is that 15 minutes. I agree.
Yeah.
And it will pay dividends. It really will.
Well, so Kelly, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this. And people, it's like, okay, her book is very easy. Please go get it. And Kelly, please tell them where they can get your book and also any other information you'd like to share.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on. So the book is called Love Hacks, Simple Solutions to Your Most Common Relationship Issues. You could find it anywhere online, and then if you're old school and like to go to the bookstore, Barnes & Noble, any of those type of places. My website is Kelly, with an I, millertherapy.com, and my Instagram is the same. It's Kelly Miller Therapy. And feel free to reach out. I'm happy to connect with others, and I'm just so grateful for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, because what we're trying to tell you is that marriage doesn't have to be as challenging as many couples make it. It does require knowledge and the intention to consistently apply it. Love is just the beginning, and without skills, sorry Beatles, it won't be enough. So what skills do you need to master, and what will get you to take the steps to accomplish that? So I hope that one of the things that you do is to continue listening to this show. And until next week, stay loving.